name's Black. Just Black. They don't call you by your first name when you're an operator. You earn a name like that when you piss off a brass hat with too much power. And believe me, I did. My job's simple. Keep a camera on a locked door. They told me, don't worry about what's down there. Just walk the perimeter and keep the cameras running. For 2 years, I've stared at a door that never opens, watched a feed that never changes, guarding a place that's not supposed to exist. Not even presidents get a peek at what's on level 6. Me? I'm just the poor bastard who had too much to say to a guy who had too many medals on his jacket. Now I spend my time watching the camera, making sure nobody gets in without the golden clearance. Lethal force authorized. They made that clear. Hell, it's probably the only part of this gig that offers any kind of excitement. Let's back up a bit. I remember the flight out here, cramped in a tin can of a plane, bouncing through turbulence like we were riding a pissed-off bull. Below, nothing but endless white. Snow, ice, the occasional patch of scraggly bushes trying to survive in the frozen hellscape. Mountains, too. Jagged bastards that looked like they could swallow you whole. And there it was, the facility, tucked between two peaks like a secret nobody wanted to keep, an ugly slab of concrete and steel slapped in the middle of nowhere. Home sweet home, I said under my breath when I saw it. I wasn't wrong, but I wasn't exactly right either. Turns out the hardest part about this job wasn't survival in a snow-covered hell. It was the damn boredom. Days bleed into weeks, weeks into months. Even the sun gets bored of this place and it'll be gone for the next couple of months and you can feel it. The darkness gnawing at your sanity. And the quiet. It's like the Antarctic cold itself, worming its way into your bones until you forget what warmth even felt like. But hey, at least I have toilet paper, right? And honestly, I thought I'd grown numb to it all, until I saw something on the outside cameras. First time I saw the flicker was just a flash of movement, like a shadow trying to make itself look bigger. Figured it was the blizzard messing with my mind. I mean, out here, reality's always got a funny way of bending when it's just you, 4 walls, and a whole lot of nothing. But then I saw it again. A shape moving against the snow, slipping just out of view. I couldn't make it out, but it was something. My gut twisted. Not fear. Not yet. Just that feeling you get when something's happened, but you haven't decided if it was good or bad. I was watching the outside screen for so long, I almost didn't catch the glitch on the level 6 monitor. I've long past trying to figure out what the brass was hiding 6 stories below the surface behind 13 inches of steel. I had decided it was zombies. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. 2 days later, I found the footprints. They weren't just any prints. You're a big fucker, aren't you? I let out, kneeling to get a closer look. Deep, like whatever made them weigh a ton and had feet twice the size of mine. What's worse, they didn't just go off into the darkness. They went around the facility and straight up the damn side of the building. No ropes, no ladders. Just prints up the wall, then gone. Now, I'm not exactly a believer. Ghosts, aliens, all that crap. But seeing those prints made my skin prickle. Still, I shook it off, buried myself back in the monotony. Better to focus on the job than entertain the idea I might be losing my mind. Last night, all hell broke loose. There I was, enjoying life on level 4 when an alarm on level 1 went off. And when I say it went off, I mean it howled like the entire world was coming down. The sound echoed through the halls, and I'd swear it rattled my damn teeth. I threw on my boots, nearly ate shit on the ladder, and bolted to the monitor. That's when I saw it. It was like the shadows had come alive, a shape moving through the level 1 corridor, all flickers and edges. It didn't rush. It didn't even stalk. It just moved like it owned the place, as if it had every right to be here, and I was the trespasser. Its eyes, 2 points of pale glacial light, caught the camera, and I swear they looked right at me. Like it knew I was watching. Like it wanted me to know. Fuck, I muttered, grabbing the radio. Level 1 breach. Repeat, we got something inside. The answer was what you'd expect. Flat. Distant.
Protect the asset, no matter the cost.
The asset? What the hell is it? Of course nobody told me, but that still pissed me off. It's not like I'm just some grunt who can't handle it. I'm Black Ops. The kind of guy they send when they need shit done quietly, efficiently, and without a trace. But even Black Ops doesn't mean you get all the answers, just enough to keep you breathing. Now here I am, the schmuck watching a door all day, no idea what's behind it. But I knew one thing. If they're throwing that line at me, it's bad news if I fuck this up. And bad news in this line of work means people die. Usually you, if you're lucky, or everyone else if you aren't. I armed myself, shotgun loaded and ready. It wasn't much, but it was what was next to me, and better than staring down the dark with my dick in my hand. My training kicked in. Defensive positions, fallback points, every inch of this icebox drilled into my brain from day one. If this thing wanted to dance, I'd give it a 2-barrel waltz it wouldn't forget. I needed to defend the asset, hold the line. No one in or out. I thought about barricading the hallway, but then realized it wouldn't make a damn bit of difference against something that could laugh its way up the side of a building. So I focused on choke points, narrow spaces where I could at least get a clean shot. Fuck it. If I was going to die, I was going to make this bastard work for it. I could hear the thing now, trying to get past the door on one of the levels above me. Pounding. A heartbeat, slow and heavy, like a sledgehammer against steel. It didn't rush, didn't rage. Just that steady, deliberate pounding. I could hear it laughing, or maybe that was just in my head. Whatever it was getting closer. Somehow I found myself on level 6. I don't even remember getting there. Adrenaline will do that to you. I stood at that door, the one I've been staring at for 2 goddamn years, and the radio hissed to life. It wasn't dispatch. Wasn't anyone I knew. Just static, and then a voice. Like nothing I've heard before scraping against my eardrums.
Jaden.
And that's when my blood ran cold. Nobody calls me that. Hell, most of the shit stains that brought me here wouldn't know my first name if it was tattooed on their goddamn foreheads. I'm Black to them, just Black. Last time anyone used my first name was long before I got banished to this frozen shithole. But this thing, it knew. That's when I felt it. Fear. Real fear. The kind that wraps around your lungs and squeezes until your breath comes in shallow gasps.
Who the fuck is this?
I barked, my hands tightening on the shotgun. The voice laughed, like it was laughing at a joke I wasn't in on.
You guard what should never have been taken, Jaden. You guard what your kind tried to bury.
What the hell are you talking about? I snapped. I needed answers. Hell, I needed it to keep talking while I figured out a plan.
The monster, Jaden, isn't me. It's you. All of you. Taking, hoarding, consuming. What your kind took was never yours to claim.
The voice said, each word slow, deliberate, like it was savoring them. I've heard some shit in my life. I've been through hell and back in places that don't even exist on maps. But nothing quite like this. My pulse hammered in my ears, and I forced out a snarl. Look, buddy, I don't give a rat's ass about your grievances. You're not supposed to be here. This is your last warning. Leave or I'll put you down. Another laugh, and this time the shadows seemed to crawl closer.
Leave. No, Jaden. I have only just arrived.
The lights flickered, the power surging and dying. My stomach dropped, heart racing, keeping pace with the red glow of the emergency lights. My instincts screaming danger, but I didn't move. I couldn't, because on the other side of that door something was coming. Slow, unhurried, confident. The door in front of me groaned, the thick steel warping as if some invisible fist was twisting it from the inside. I watched as the damn thing imploded, metal shrieking, the groaning echoing through the corridor. It was like the door was eating itself, folding in, sucked into its own core until there was nothing left but a yawning emptiness. I've seen a lot of shit in my time, but nothing quite like that. It wasn't just destruction. It was like reality itself was getting its ass kicked. I pressed my back to the last door on level 6, the only one I've never entered, and was ready to do my job. And then, out of the space where the door had been, something stepped forward. A shape. Big. Hulking. its form almost shimmering against the dim emergency lights. I could see the outline, but it was entirely black, like looking straight up into the night sky on a moonless night, speckled with the tiniest pinpricks of light. Stars, maybe, or its eyes. Whatever they were watching me. I'll be damned. But for a split second, I just stood there, like an idiot. It was the kind of shock that comes when you know you're way out of your depth, like seeing a tidal wave coming right at you and realizing you've got nowhere to run. "Fuck this," I muttered, snapping out of it. My finger squeezed the trigger, the shotgun roared, and the recoil kicked back against my shoulder. The shot hit, square on. The thing didn't move an inch. I pumped the next round, fired again. Same thing, no flinch, no stumble. It just kept walking forward like it was taking a casual fucking stroll. I wasn't missing. I don't miss. I could see the impact, but there was nothing shattering behind it. No fragments of metal, no marks on the walls. The rounds were just gone, swallowed up like the damn thing was eating them. The creature, no, the entity, was absorbing them. Taking them in, but entirely unaffected. Shit, I whispered to myself. I had ammo left, plenty of it. But why bother making my eardrums bleed in this tin can if it wasn't doing anything? I lowered the shotgun, standing there as the thing kept moving closer, its footsteps slow and heavy, echoing in the enclosed space. I decided, fuck it. If I was going to die, might as well look it in the face. I stood my ground, my back straightening as the entity came to a stop just a few feet in front of me. It towered over me, the blackness of it almost complete, except those tiny pinpricks of light. I took a breath, then let it out slow. "All right, big guy," I said, my voice low but steady. "What's behind this door?" The entity paused. It looked at me, or at least I think it did. All I could see was blackness with those tiny pinpoints of light scattered like stars in the void. It didn't speak at first, and I could feel the seconds ticking by, each one stretching out longer than the last. I had the sense it found my question interesting, like it hadn't expected me to ask it. Finally, it moved, its head, or whatever part of it that could be called a head, tilting slightly to one side, almost like it was amused. Then the voice came again, low and rumbling, the kind of sound that felt like it was scraping against the inside of my skull.
You guard what you do not understand, Jaden. You protect without knowing why. But now you ask what is behind the door.
I snorted, a bitter grin tugging at the corner of my mouth. "Yeah, well, curiosity's a bitch, isn't it?" The entity let out something that might have been a laugh, but it was like no laugh I'd ever heard, more like the sound of stone grinding against stone, deep and reverberating.
What lies beyond is what your kind fears the most. The truth. The consequences of what you have taken. Of what you have hidden.
I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the Antarctic cold. "The truth?" I echoed, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "You're gonna have to be a bit more specific, buddy. I don't do riddles." It stepped closer, and I could feel the temperature drop, the cold rolling off of it in waves, biting through my gear like it wasn't even there.
Your kind took what was never theirs to take. You built your walls, locked it away, and you called it safety. But what you truly did, Jaden, was build your own cage.
It said, and the stars, its eyes, seemed to brighten for a moment. I swallowed, my throat dry, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it was trying to break free from my ribcage. "What are you?" I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. The entity tilted its head again, those starry eyes fixed on me.
I am the reckoning. I am what comes when the lies end, Jaden. When the scales must be balanced.
It said, and its voice, a promise of something dark and unstoppable. For a moment, neither of us moved. Just me, standing there like a fool with a shotgun that might as well have been a goddamn water gun. And this thing, this living void, staring down at me like I was nothing more than a curious insect. And then, it did something that shocked the ever-living fuck out of me. Slowly, it turned, the darkness of its form shifting as it moved toward the hallway beyond the ruined door. I watched it go, my heart still pounding. my brain still struggling to make sense of why it turned instead of pushing past me to the asset when it clearly was able to. It was heading deeper, further into the facility. Then it hit me. I was just a pit stop. It was still on the hunt for the asset. If it was still looking, then what the fuck was behind the door on level 6? I punched in my code lightning quick on the keypad. The door opened and I saw the thing I'd been guarding all this time without knowing why. Nothing. It was an empty room. My hands tightened on the shotgun, my knuckles white, furious as all fuck. I turned back to the obliterated doorway. "Hey," I called after it. The entity paused, half turning back toward me. I took a step forward, my teeth gritted. "You think you're gonna just walk in here, use your door-eating magic, and I'll just stand here?" It didn't answer right away. Instead, it watched me, those pinpricks of light flickering, almost like they were dancing.
You have already failed, Jaden. The only choice left for you now is whether you will watch or whether you will be consumed.
I stared back at it, every instinct in my body screaming at me to run, to hide, to do anything but stand here in front of this thing that should not exist. But fuck that. I'd never backed down before, and I wasn't about to start now. "Let's see how this ends," I said in a flat voice. It turned away again. I knew following it was a terrible idea, maybe the worst I'd ever had. But what was the alternative? Stand there like a dipshit while it strolled off to do God knows what with whatever I was supposed to be protecting? Bullets couldn't kill it. What the hell else could I do? Try and arm wrestle it to death? Fuck it. I'd follow, assess as I went, and hope like hell something gave me an edge. The entity moved through the corridor, and I followed, my shotgun loose in my hands, my heart thundering away in my chest. It was surreal, but I stayed close, watching its form shimmer and shift, and then we went deeper into the facility. Now they told me there were 6 levels in this facility. 6 levels, no more, no less. But apparently I'd been fed a load of shit, because we sure as hell found ourselves descending even further. Lucky level 7, huh? Except there wasn't any goddamn luck here. Only more darkness, and a sense of inevitability that made my skin crawl. I watched as the entity pulled another one of its "now you see it, now you don't" tricks, the wall shifting, melting away to reveal a massive corridor. My stomach tightened, and I forced myself forward. The hallway opened up ahead of us, expanding into a space so vast, I almost lost my balance just trying to take it all in. I stopped, blinking, my mind reeling at what I was seeing, but not like anything I'd ever seen before. Massive trees, towering, ancient, were fused with the structures, their roots spiraling around buildings that looked like something out of a fever dream. There were railways lit with soft, glowing lights that crisscrossed the sky above, and I could see beings, actual beings, moving along them. Tall, short, some of them gliding, others striding purposefully, every color, every form. It was as if someone had taken 100 different myths and stitched them together into something vibrant, something alive. It was stunning. And for a moment, just one fleeting second, a feeling of peace washed over me. It was so damn beautiful it made my throat tight. A whole world I couldn't understand, but one that felt right. Like there was some sort of harmony to it all that I'd never seen or felt before. What is this place?" I found myself whispering. The entity didn't answer. It didn't need to, because just as soon as I spoke, the entire scene blinked away. I stumbled, disoriented, my head spinning as everything shattered back into the cold, sterile corridors of the facility. And there, in the center of the room, was a woman lying on what looked like a huge operating table. She wasn't human, at least not entirely. Her skin was pale, almost luminescent, and her hair spilled out in silvery strands across the table. Tubes and wires snaked out from her arms and her head, feeding into machines that blinked and whirred. Machines I couldn't even begin to identify. The entity moved closer, standing beside the table, its darkness somehow softer now. Like the sight of her made it less angry. It turned its head toward me, the pinpoints of light fixed on my face.
She came to make contact, to study.
said, its voice quieter now, almost sad. I swallowed, stepping closer, my gaze fixed on the woman's face.
She made contact with us?
The entity nodded.
And your kind kept up the illusion of cooperation, of knowledge and trade, until they did not, until they took her and they began feeding off of her.
All of a sudden, I was thrown into a scene, my vision spinning like I'd been sucked into someone else's memory. She was being introduced to men in suits, those classic government-issue types, cold smiles and colder eyes. They met with her under the pretense of another shared information meeting. She walked in, hopeful, calm, maybe even excited. But just as she entered the room, they hit her. High-powered electrodes, several of them, crackling and snapping as they latched onto her skin. She fought. Hell, she fought like something out of a nightmare. The air seemed to ripple around her, and I could almost feel the pressure of her struggle. But it wasn't enough. In the end, they shot her with powerful sedatives again and again, until her legs buckled and her eyes closed. They caught her as she fell, and just like that, the memory snapped back to the present. My stomach twisted, bile rising in the back of my throat. Feeding off her?
Yes, they kept her sedated, her mind locked in a constant dreamlike state of sleep. And they used her essence, her consciousness, as a power source.
The entity's voice was cold again, the pinpricks of light flaring for a moment.
Your kind harnessed her mind to create systems they could not have dreamed of. Artificial intelligence, warfare that could think and adapt, biological weapons that learned from their targets. All of it fueled by her essence, her knowledge, all for your kind's greed.
My chest felt tight. AI, biowarfare. It all tracked. The breakthroughs, the leaps in technology that had seemed too good to be true. Because they were. Because we'd stolen them from her. From something we couldn't even begin to understand. I looked back at the entity. Why did we see that place, the city, when we stepped in? The entity looked down at the woman, its form shifting slightly, as if it were trying to steady itself.
Deep down, she is still there, still dreaming, still creating. It is her way of finding comfort, of reminding herself that her world still exists, even if only in her mind. But she heard you, Jaden. She heard your voice. And in that moment, her illusion blinked away. Because she is still conscious, somewhere within herself. She listens.
I took a step back. It was this moment we heard them. Heard the reinforcements I called earlier, moving into the facility above us. Their footsteps echoed down through the levels, a distant, chaotic stampede. I swallowed, knowing it was already too late for them. What's going to happen when she wakes up? The entity turned to me, and though I couldn't see it, I could feel it smile. A slow, cold smile that I could feel in the pit of my stomach.
When she wakes, Jaden, there will be annihilation.
I looked down at the woman, my heart pounding. And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly, utterly helpless. Because deep down, I knew the entity was right. Whatever came next, we had earned it. Every last bit of it. It was then the entity spoke, its voice cutting through my thoughts like a blade.
What side will you be on?
It asked. At that moment, her eyes opened, and it was like looking into galaxies, swirling with endless stars. As if the entire universe was staring back at me. It was both breathtaking and terrifying. It was then I knew my life would change forever.
Thanks for listening. I hope I was able to create an escape from your daily grind. Follow my channel if you want to take a break from reality with immersive storytelling. Well, until we meet next time.